Well, it's Wednesday morning and you know what that is. We are back with another Curse of Oak Island recap. This is episode 7, Walk the Line. All right, Johnny Cash. Has nothing to do with that. We'll get into that in a little bit. Actually, probably won't. It doesn't make any sense. Basically, they just walk the line across the island following stuff that they've unburied and reburied. Whatever. Let's get into this episode. So I'm going to start with the end of the episode. So at the end of the episode, the narrator closed out the episode with this. Is it possible people visited Oak Island nearly 800 years ago? Yes, that's very possible. That's pretty much confirmed. With an elaborate plan to hide sacred treasure. No, because there's no evidence of that, and there's no evidence of that anywhere in the world having happened before. And that others that knew of this secret came centuries later and buried more. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Hey, you know what? There's some treasure buried over there. Instead of taking it, let's go bury some more treasure and leave no records whatsoever that it's there. And maybe people will just forget about it. And then these guys called the Laginas can get rich off of spending all their money trying to find it. Yes, that's probably how that happened. In this episode, we had 3 instances of where the cast has reached the point where they've given up. You can see the disbelief and just the disgust in their face. Let's go ahead and just start in the war room. So in the war room, Laird Niven went out. He used some drones to fly around that feature from last week with the upright stone, and it walks around it that they used a backhoe to dig up, right? Very cautiously, whatever. So he used a bunch of drones, flew it around, made a 3D rendition, because obviously we're running out of things to talk about in the show and we need some filler. So filler episode here, he basically showed it up on the screen and everybody went, wow, there's no way that's natural. It's got to be man-made. And they made the statement of the century. At one point they actually went, you know what we found underneath of it? They found wood. They found wood under that rock, and they're going to date that wood, and that wood will tell them how old that rock is, how long it's been there, who placed it there. It'll just tell them how old the wood is, but it might tell them when the rock may have been placed there. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. Anyhow, they had the conversation. They looked at that rock, and they went, that looks like a marker rock. If we just look off of the marker rock from there and we walk a straight line, walk the line. I brought it. There it is. If we walk the line, we can find another stone, and that stone will tell us secrets of what happened here. And the conversation divulged into who could it possibly have been? Well, they found 6 Roman coins within like 600 yards of this marker stone. And then they went, you know what? The Romans had Roman coins. And they said, you know what? When we was in Iceland, we found out that the Vikings had Roman coins. And every Viking settlement had Roman coins in it. And Laird Niven literally rolled his eyes and went, yeah, that's possible. It's quite possible. And then they decided to go out, get their trusty GPS on a stick, and walk the line. There it is again, and walk the line across the island. Now, for some reason, they stood there and he went, you know what? We're going to go southeast. Why? What chose southeast? And for what reason did southeast become the de facto direction to walk? Anyhow, I digress. So they walked the line southeast with their trusty Gary Drayton and his metal detector. And you know what? They found another rock that had a hole in it. And they said, we found this rock in 2017. We better call Rick over here. Or Marty. One of them. I don't know. So they called one of the brothers over there and they went, that hole's got a rock in it. And we found that quite a few years ago and it could be important. And they went ahead and they trenched out from that rock to another rock that they buried. They dug it up a couple years ago and they went, this looks important, and they reburied it. But that rock was part of the Tree of Life. Now, if you're completely confused right now, we all are. We've been confused for 13 years at this point, 13 seasons. I don't even know. But we've all been confused. So they unburied this rock a couple years ago, and then they reburied this rock. They said it might be important, and they marked it with the GPS unit. Now where that rock lays, it's somewhere where they've done a lot of construction because there's roads and piles of dirt and all kinds of nonsense over there, right? So then we come up with the Tree of Life. Now what's the Tree of Life? This is the Tree of Life. And the Tree of Life is basically a kiddie's connect the dot. And my kids didn't draw this. This was actually on TV. The Tree of Life started off as the Nolan's Cross. Nolan's Cross is in the middle, and they brought some guy in a couple years ago, and he said, you know what? that Nolan's Cross could actually be a tree of life. And he showed all these other dots, and they went out and they found some rocks in those other locations, and it kind of made sense, but then they just didn't explore it anymore because it didn't lead to treasure. So they just left it go. But now here we are with a filler episode on episode 7, so we need to go back and talk about Nolan's Cross and a tree of life. And somehow, some way, this dot way over here, they decided connects to Nolan's Cross and the tree of life, and it still doesn't point to any treasures. So what does that mean in the future? Probably not much. Anyhow, Gary Drayton was out doing his trusty metal detector, and he pulled up a piece of iron, and he said this piece of iron could be important. This is a very important piece of iron, because imagine if you was trying to hide treasure, this piece of iron, which is like this big, could have been part of a treasure chest that was holding treasure that was hid on this island. Get over it, Gary. It's a piece of iron. God knows what it came from. It could have come from anything. It could have come from a strap. Well, over in the Money Pit area, Katya had to get her screen time. So over in the Money Pit area, they brought up a core sample. That core sample looked like mud, and they said, this has to have come from the solution channel. This is what we was looking for. And they did the same thing they did last week, up on the table with the nails and the screws and the bolts and all that other stuff. They jammed that metal detector hand thingy in there, and they went, beep, 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 beep. They said, it's got to be something. And Rick said, let's move it over to the table. So they moved it over to the table that doesn't have any nails or metal or anything in it. And they put it down on the table, and they started scanning. They went beep, 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 beep. And then it stopped. And they went, where could it have gone? Ghost metal. Ghost metal. That's going to be like the next spin-off of Cursed of Oak Island. Ghost metal. It's got a ring to it, right? Right. So the ghost metal, the metal just vanished. And they said, we better get Katya up here with her trusty metal detector. And as Katya walked up there, Rick being the gentleman he is, he said, let's lift it up on these trash cans so Katya doesn't have to bend over. Is that sexist? Whatever. Anyhow, they lifted it up on that trash can, and Katya stuck her handheld metal detector into the mud, and it started beep, 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 beeping. And she moved around, and she couldn't find anything. And she said, you know what this could be? Clumps of gold dust. The clumps of gold dust. This could be gold dust inside of this mud. We better take it and get it tested. And that's all that happened in the Money Pit. Lot 5, not a lot happened on Lot 5. They found the glass bead. I didn't even take a photo of it. Could care less. It's like every other glass bead they found over there. They have an entirely new crew of individuals over digging on Lot 5. Don't know what happened to the rest of them. We'll find out next week if it's just temporary. Anyhow, obviously this new crew is not up to speed with how we act on this show, because the lady that found the glass bead gave it to the Laird, gave it to the scientist over there, and he gave the rundown of the history because they found them all before, and he said, this is currency, blah, 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 blah. And she said, or it's just somebody broke their necklace. And he went, well, it's currency, but they did wear it as jewelry also, so that's possible. I'm telling you, the cast has given up. Finally, about 33% of this episode was taken up by what was believed to be a compass. So Emma did all of her research on the compass and basically said, yep, looks like a compass. Here's the eye, here's the legs. This is what it's got to be. And then Rick said, but I want to get Carmen Legg in here because Carmen is the expert of this stuff. Carmen knows everything there is to know about metallurgy and things made with metal. So at the end of the episode, they bring Carmen Legg in, and Carmen Legg looks at it and he goes, that's not a compass, it's a divider. And somebody said, well, it's basically the same, right? And he went, they look exactly the same. Now here's the thing, compass looks the same. The thing with the compass is it's a drawing tool. You put a pencil at the end of it, you move it around, that's how you draw circles. A divider looks exactly the same, except it has 2 points. You ever watch any of those old pirate movies or any of the nautical movies where they have that thing with the 2 points and they're like, boop, 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 boop? That's a divider. Looks exactly the same. One draws circles, one doesn't. They use them to basically find directions. The divider is used in conjunction with a true magnetic north compass to follow directions. The compass is used to build and draw things. Yeah. That's about it. That was our filler episode, season 7, 9 minutes. I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry. I forgot to add the third time that the cast was just over this whole process. So at the end, when they're in the office with Carmen, Emma has already done all the research on it. So now she's part of this whole process. Carmen gives his rundown. One of the young Lagina nephews, sons, I don't know, started having his little spiel about how this had to be vitally important to building something, blah, 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 blah. And Emma went, they're over it. The cast is even over it. Sorry, 9 minutes, 30 seconds. See you next week.